Well, hi, Amanda, and welcome to Rebuilding My Health. I'm so excited to have you here with me today.
Oh, thank you so much, Casey. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you start by introducing yourself?
I would love to. My name is Amanda Campbell. I am 46 next month. I'm a twin. I'm a wife just recently, just married my childhood sweetheart who um, we were each other's pretty much first kiss from age 12. But we were friends our whole lives, never got together really. Yeah, just last year in our mid 40s, got married after dating for a couple of years. So that was quite special. And I am a dog lover. I've got little Eva, who's my fur baby child, our fur baby girl. I'm also a kinesiologist, a resilience trainer, and a podcast lover as well. I'm a bit of a blogger too, and like you, love sharing stories that inspire other people to overcome their challenges.
Fantastic. And what a lovely story about marrying your childhood sweetheart.
Yeah,
Really
thank you.
cool.
Yeah. Love conquers all, doesn't it? Love heals in ways that we are still yet to understand.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, and I always think it's cool when like people come back together. Like there was that connection when you were young and then you found each other again. So
Yeah.
very cool. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to diving into your story. So take us back to a couple of decades to
Mm.
your 20s when you really were facing a significant health crisis. Um, Share what you were experiencing and where that took you.
Yeah. So I guess the other thing, aspect of who I am is the diagnosis I had when I was 24 years old. And I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So, winding way back when my twin sister and I were, we loved school, we played a lot of sport, we were either playing sport or we were in the music school, learning musical instruments. We loved singing and dancing. And actually, when my twin and I were 11, she was actually diagnosed with Crohn's disease, also an autoimmune condition. And she was very, very sick for most of our childhood. I remember her being in and out of hospital. She had one of the worst cases seen back then on all the steroids and medications that also even seemed to make her sicker with arthritis and then but she finally did recover, which is a whole nother podcast. She finally did find a pathway of recovery. And both my parents were very balanced in their approach. There was a place for Western medicine, but there was also a place for Eastern philosophy and medicine. So thankfully, there was a solution that she found, and which was very similar to what we'll be discussing today with my solutions as well with MS. So we finished school and life was too short, we figured, after everything we had been through. So after a year of uni, we said to each other, let's follow our dream of singing and dancing full time. Dad had a heart attack, but because dad, there's like in the family there's a couple of doctors and surgeons, and I think I was interested in law, but my heart was always in more the arts and creative, you know, creativity and dancing and singing. But I also, you know, was exposed to a lot of the wellness industry as well. But that was always to come a bit later. So we studied musical theatre and dance, started to sing and write our own music. But that was around the age of 19 that I first started to experience my symptoms of pins and needles and numbness on the left hand side of my face and fingertips. So I went to my local GP. He said, let's get an MRI. And they found one tiny lesion. So they couldn't diagnose me with anything just yet. So, true to my nature, I just got on with my life. I fell into the fashion industry, a career I really enjoyed that also paid for all the recording studio and music that we were creating. And life was good. Life was really good. But I was always a go getter, a type A personality, um, pushing myself, really eagerly wanting to be successful. I guess I was trying to prove myself maybe I felt like I had disappointed dad. I don't know, there might have been aspects of that. But with the patients that I see in my clinic, there is such a pattern of that type A personality, you know, females that often end up in burnout because they feel enough more so when they're achieving. And that was very much me. So the symptoms came back at age 24, but this time the pins and needles turned into more weakness on the left hand side of my body. And another MRI showed two lesions on the right hand side of my brain and one at the top of my spine. So therefore, they could diagnose me confidently with multiple sclerosis. And obviously, from that moment on, everything just stopped and I became really stressed. And I began to focus on all the worries of that and the negatives. And oh my gosh, who's going to love me? How am I going to achieve my goals? Am I going to be able to create a family? Am I going to be normal? And so I didn't yet know how to manage those difficult emotions. So I did what I knew and I pushed them down and I suppressed how I really felt. And that created more stress in my nervous system, which pushed me more into the fight or flight pathways of, you know, inflammation and degeneration. So, of course, I got worse. And by the age of 29, I had a really big relapse that paralyzed me. Mm.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
not ideal, but
Yeah.
it put me on my ass and it was the best thing that I guess happened to me. Not that I would wish that on anyone, but I was forced to sit in a hospital room, four white walls, and just stop because I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
I was like, "What else can I do?
Mhm.
And you know, I was singing and dancing and working, and
Mhm.
also starting my own business, and I was just go, 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 and I didn't know how to acknowledge when to rest.
Mhm.
You know, there's a time to go, there's a time to action, but there is also a time to nurture and to be kind to yourself and know when your body needs to rest. And that was one of the biggest hurdles that I just didn't understand yet that came later on in life when I had to no choice but to learn how to really heal myself. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to walk, wash, or feed myself. I couldn't drive. You know, I couldn't wash my own hair. I just had one arm and one leg that was working, and my whole face dropped. So, yeah, it was pretty significant.
Yeah, yeah. And it reminds me of this saying, and I'm not going to remember the specific quote, but that I've heard so much in the wellness industry that like if you don't kind of slow down, your body's going to do it for you. It's going to
Mm,
force you to
yeah,
to put the brakes on. It's going to put the brakes on
yeah,
for you, I guess. Yeah,
yeah,
which kind of feels like what happened. It's like,
yeah,
you have to stop. You have to slow down and yeah, and your body did that in the most or almost most dramatic way that it could.
yeah. It was
But
building up over a long period of time. You know,
yeah.
and it was just I created the right environment for that storm to occur in hindsight.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So leading up to that, were you taking medication? What were you doing to manage MS and I
Mm.
guess the 4 or 5 years from diagnosis?
Yeah, so initially at the start, because I only had the one lesion and then I only had a couple, um, I didn't start medicate. My first medication was Avonex, and I was taking Avonex just before the relapse, the big relapse happened, and that's the long intramuscular, you know, injection that you know put into your thigh or your stomach, and they took me off that after the big relapse because they didn't feel like it was working. And then I tried Copaxone and beta-ferrons, you know, the subcutaneous ones that just go under your skin as well. But I had some complications and pretty bad side effects from those as well. And that from that point, I realized that I had to do some more research, and I became quite obsessed about what happens when people um, you know, recover when they're not supposed to, these rapid recoveries. Why does that happen? I was fascinated. And then I also wanted to understand, well, what happens when you do look after yourself? You might go to the gym, you might eat really great food, but you get really sick or even terminally sick. Why does that happen? And after everything, all of my studies and going back to school and learning Chinese medicine and sports kinesiology and learning about nutrition and motor learning and, meridians and emotions, mental health, I've discovered that, our mental health and our nervous system health is paramount. Whilst we want to also give ourselves the best environment with my 6 pillars of health that I have in my Bend Like Bamboo program, are of understanding resilience, mindset, nourishing yourself on a cellular level with the right nutrition, which can be unique to everybody, and connection, reconnecting back to yourself and also within your relationship. Because if you think of MS, it's a disconnection in the nerves, isn't it? It's a disconnect and it's an attack. Your nervous system is attacking your optic nerves, brain, and spinal cord for reasons we're still yet to understand.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like you kind of just dove into research, learning as much as you could at that point. That you were
Yeah, I had
still,
to.
you were, when
Yeah.
you were still debilitated, you were starting this process. Is that
Well, I was in
correct?
I was living in rehabilitation in a hospital and I was paralyzed and I was faced with never walking again. And they immediately, had me working with a neurophysiotherapist. Um, and when they were assessing me, they said, look, there's a chance that you may never recover from this or get your mobility back. Thankfully, my parents brought in a family friend who is an applied kinesiologist, which is when you're a chiropractor and a kinesiologist. And he started working on me every few days. And from that point, they noticed a significant change of improvement in my physiotherapy sessions. So I started to improve, and I had an amazing neurophysiotherapist that was world renowned for getting his patients not just walking but running again. So I landed in the right place at the right time, surrounded by amazing specialists, and thankfully I walked and ran within 6 weeks.
You're
And it was a
kidding.
very rapid recovery. Yeah. And when they thought I would never. So I kind of channeled my type A personality in a positive way when I was living in hospital. There were many weeks at the start where there was no hope. And I was freaking out, sitting in my wheelchair, crying behind my sunglasses, going, oh my God, how am I going to live my life permanently disabled so young? All my, dreams came crashing down. And I, lost so much confidence and self esteem within myself. But there was one day when my sister and a couple of my girlfriends grabbed me, put me in my wheelchair, wheeled me across the road, and we had dinner at a restaurant. And I was so joyful to be out of the hospital bed, feeling normal, hanging out with my mates and my sister. And they chopped up all of my food, and I ate with the one hand. But the joy that was rising up in my body, and we were all laughing like we usually do. Something very special happened that day after feeling such immense joy, and also because of the polarity of what was going on, of going through such a difficult time of despair, versus you know experiencing joy just with simple normal things because of just that contrast. I came back to my room and my toe moved for the first time, and it was in that moment I found hope, and I started to focus my energy differently. I started to focus on what I wanted, which was to walk again, rather than freaking out over, oh my gosh, what if, and being almost too scared to try because it's quite vulnerable to give it a go. What if it didn't work? What if it didn't work? So I was first in at physio, last to leave. I was a woman on a mission, had as many exercises, extra ones that they could throw me. And I was just very lucky because what I also know now is whether it's a stroke or an MS relapse, if you are experiencing a paralysis, the faster that you can intervene is the best chance you can get of gaining mobility. And not everybody recovers, but I was very lucky and I did. And
Yeah.
after that, I came home as an outpatient, and I had to see the physio every week for about a year. And I had to take a good year off work to still, regain my mobility from even just tiny little movements of how to, drink from a cup and use both hands. And yeah, it was so whilst I left there after a couple of months walking and I could, in a very disjointed way jog, there was still, I had to lie down half the day. I had a lot of fatigue, bladder and bowel issues from that severe relapse and
Mhm.
balance issues. So that's when I started to realize, okay, how else can I support myself? And I came across Dr. Terry Walls, Professor Jelinek, Swank's research, and McDougall, Chutkan. There's a lot of doctors that have done a lot of research on autoimmune recovery and gut health. And it's like I went from a decline to more of a plateau. So that was great. And some symptoms started to improve. But then I realized, there was more to it. And my girlfriends said, you've always been fascinated about energy medicine and kinesiology, and a kinesiologist helps you so much in your recovery. Why don't you go and study? So in my early 30s, I did find a diploma in sports kinesiology, and for a couple of years, I went and studied it, and that unraveled how, past experiences of how do I explain? In the nervous system, we can have that rigidity and stress from past traumas and stresses that we haven't overcome or let go of that remain stuck in the body. And, we had a lot of stress growing up. My parents separated. Nicole was so sick for much of our childhood. And there was just a lot going on. And I think, working with that and processing a lot of the difficulties I faced as a child and finding more harmony in my nervous system and heart rapidly changed my recovery. And from that point on, it's been 16 years of remission now.
Wow.
Yeah,
16 years of
16
remission.
years. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So impressive. Really.
Yeah, I'm very grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is really, I mean, your story is not the MS narrative that most people are going to hear. And MS is one of the more, I guess, frightening diagnoses out there.
Can be,
Where
can
if
be.
you, yeah, if you Google
Yeah,
it, yeah, yeah, it's
yeah,
scary, really.
yeah,
The prognosis, and unfortunately, people are going to find mostly negative information when they go online and learn
yeah.
about it. So yeah, I mean, your experience is a really a powerful counterpoint to that typical narrative that we're hearing. So it sounds like the physiotherapy, the mindset, um, gut health, nutrition, processing emotions were all really key for you. Anything else that layered in there that you feel like was really influential?
Yeah, I think reducing stress levels is really important and creating the best environment you can in the mind and body and within your relationships is pivotal.
Mhm.
And they're just pillars of health that can, are evidence-based but can also support, you know the biggest thing I learned about the nervous system was that the two pathways of, the fight or flight stress response versus growth and repair. And I started to realize that what I wanted to do to give myself the best chance of recovery with such a chronic illness was to promote growth and repair pathways as much as I possibly could. And kinesiology was a gift for me because it is a modality that takes a very holistic approach in doing that. So it treats the body as a whole, structurally, biochemically, emotionally, and energetically, rather than targeting a symptom or a disease in isolation. And we use muscle testing as a biofeedback tool to access the subconscious mind where imbalances exist and where we can therefore restore balance. And that was a game changer. It was really done, and it's unique for everybody. So I see so many clients with autoimmune disease and MS because I'm the practitioner and the patient. So I understand all the different things that my clients are going through, as well as being the practitioner and learning all about the best way to recover. And we can support ourselves with the best food and a great exercise program, and you can journal and you can meditate and you can do all the things. but there is harm when you can find bending like bamboo is like a bamboo tree that is anchored. And when you return back to yourself, often after being split off, disconnected, disassociated, often stuck in the head, over analyzing in pensiveness from being stuck in the past or over analyzing the future, being used to being worried or not feeling safe in your life in periods of time. Um, it's coming out of that and returning back to self, which regulates the nervous system, and then from there we can obviously promote the growth and repair pathways, but it's heart healing work as well. And heart healing from, for me, loving myself, feeling enough when I rest as well as when I'm achieving. Changing my mind about the stories I was telling myself that I wasn't going to be approved of or loved unless I had maybe achieved a certain amount of in my life. And then I realized that while some of those stories might have been valid and true, some of them really needed to be reevaluated and put in the bin. And who teaches us that? And so that's why I guess that's what I do is I help people navigate that journey of really identifying what beliefs subconsciously are we still holding on to from the past that are leading to suffering and a stress response. And what do we need to let go of? And then how do we move forward into the next chapter and cycle that our life is calling us to move into, which occurs from our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. And I love working with women that are going through, you know, that new chapters in their lives or overcoming adversity and how to rebuild from that.
Yeah, yeah. That is so powerful and so important because, yeah, there's so much stress that happens with change. You know, I'm going through that myself right now. And yeah, just kind of recognizing that, yeah, I'm so much stress and storytelling, like negative storytelling or worried storytelling. And yeah, just, the importance of the mindset with that and all that. And the bend like bamboo metaphor is really powerful and really like speaks to me. I mean, it just
Thank
yeah,
you.
I understand that, you've kind of got that strength, but you've got resilience with it.
Flexibility. Yeah.
Flexibility within that and kind of centered, grounded strength.
Yes, well,
Yeah.
to have a flexible mindset is your ability to reimagine what's possible for you, to let go of old stories that aren't serving you, every day washing your mind, because we all have negative narratives that creep into our mindset. But just the understanding of how that's connected to your nervous system, the health of your heart, and your chi flow. And you want, your chi is the most malleable, energetic aspect of your body, and then you have your biochemistry, your digestive system, your hormones, your blood, and then your emotional and mental, well-being, and then your physical skeletal system and structure. So when you move energy and unclog meridians, because all of that is connected, it's easier to manipulate the energetic aspect of self. But in traditional Chinese medicine, there's so much information in the meridians and chakras of the body that can not only help you with navigating a pathway forward and what's your soul journey and what are the difficult aspects that you might be working through that you haven't quite achieved a high level of consciousness to understand, whilst all at the same time as you're correcting all of that, your biochemistry is going back into harmony, your hips are going back into alignment, and you're letting go. You can also do that with trigger pointing, but sometimes just releasing grief can release the lower back because those muscles are associated with the large intestine muscle. So seeing the body as a tensegrity structure and treating the body as a whole, for me, turns the tap off at the source rather than just mopping up overflow, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and really, you're speaking to the importance of the holistic aspect, because I think people tend to go, okay, well, like you said, if I just clean up my diet, or if I, just, yeah, do this one thing or these two things, then, maybe they might get a little bit better, but they may plateau or yeah, not really see that full healing that is possible. So yeah, the holistic aspect is so critical. You mentioned the six pillars of health. Would you like to share a little bit more about what those are?
Yeah, so I've got a foundations course which is captures the six pillars because when, you want to feel well to be able to make these changes, to tweak your diet, to add exercise in, to meditate, to do all the things to support your system to heal. So the six pillars are of resilience. So, with a flexible mindset and returning back to self and creating your center and anchor and what that feels like to you. Because, we live in a chaotic world that's constantly moving and changing. A lot of people have their own different opinions in the world, where the world's going through so much change, but we're going to go through so much change. But change is good. That's how we grow. And with friction, you really need to find your stability and inner anchor, where if you have less chaos in here and in your heart, you're going to see a less chaotic world. But if in here is chaotic and hasn't
Mhm.
been cleaned up and regulated, then it really impacts how you're perceiving difficult conversations and events in your life. And that obviously will impact how you show up in your life. So, whether that's with how you are going to help yourself to heal, or whether you how you show up at work, because I've got another program called Thrive where I help people in the same aspect to thrive at work or within performance within their own businesses. Because I very quickly learned that all the lessons I learned walking again also helped with when I was, well, and I started to create a Bend Like Bamboo. I had a nutrition business called Nourish, and it was a fast-paced, innovative environment where we were creating new things and projects. And it was the same principles of supporting yourself with these six pillars of health so that you can see from other people's points of view, you can receive feedback, you can evolve and grow as a human being. So resilience and then mindset, body, so movement, stretches, and exercises, and nutrition and connection. So I use meditation for that. I use a wristband that I give all of my clients. This black wristband here says, I am enough, been like bamboo. And it's just a prop. It's a prop that reminds me, oh, yeah, I'm working on that at the moment. Oh, yeah, relax, open your heart, center. And, just remembering that everything, you are safe, everything's okay. It took me a long time to learn that because for a large chapter of my life in my childhood, I didn't feel safe. Sometimes I can bring that old survival technique of disconnecting from myself or dissociating into the now, but it's not appropriate for my current environment. It's an old habit I need to let go of. So, my wristband reminds me of that, as does my morning rituals of journaling and meditation. And that's the sixth pillar is journaling.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
Journaling is one of
Just
the
really
pillars.
simple techniques that,
Yeah,
really help to nourish yourself. Yeah.
yeah, but so powerful. Mindset is super fascinating to me after interviewing hundreds of people who have turned around chronic illness. I guess though, how how does someone change their mindset in the way that you did to go and, I'm in a negative spiral. This is what my life is possibly going to look like. It's going to, be negative. How do you help someone shift their mindset in that way?
Well, for me, I was very lucky. I've always been motivated. So that's always been on my side. So, and I have a lot of clients like that too. And for them, it's very much relaxing them and slowing them down so they can go within, they can feel their emotions again, positive and negative. So if we block difficult emotions, we're also going to block joy. And so much of my work is not just about regulating the nervous system, it's about opening the heart again so you can receive and express joy in a more balanced way. And that is also what shifts the mindset. Whereas with someone who has less motivation and finds it difficult to create change or to elevate their mindset. I mean, I guess an elevated mindset is one when you can access, you have a bit more of a higher frequency going on. You have to be calm and relaxed. to be able to do that. And from here we can access love, joy, forgiveness, compassion, and resilience. Whereas when we're, I guess, on the ground floor, we have a more limited perspective. We can only see what's around us rather than that bird's eye view, which is less of a victim mindset, more of a, oh, I get the cosmic joke. I can see how that had to happen for me to learn this and for me to this to happen there. And you take more responsibility and accountability for where you're at, what you've learned, and how you can move forward. Because from that lower perspective, we access guilt, shame, anger, worry, jealousy, or the lower frequency emotions. So the answer to your question is you want to give yourself, that's why I created the foundations course is, start with nourishing yourself on a cellular level with foods that are going to optimize your nutrition. Because when you eat better, you're going to feel better. Just start simple routines of journaling and meditation morning and night to help you to return back to yourself, to go within, because all the answers really do lie within, and you're automatically going to create that sense of safety and regulation in your nervous system when you do that. But it's also different for everybody. Some people need to slow down and go within, but some people need to get going and action things. And that's
Mhm.
where kinesiology helps me with that too. For example, the gallbladder organ is all about actioning. And, that wood meridian is very related to the emotion of anger. And if there's someone who's, got stuck anger and they haven't processed it or let it go, it can impact how they're actioning things in the world. So, um, yeah, you really want to make sure that you surround yourself with a team of practitioners that can support you and to understand you, that are qualified to help you on a psychological level, or even counseling, psychotherapy, kinesiology. There's lots of amazing modalities that work with the mind and body, because it can be a very customized approach as well. But we can all do the things of eating well, throwing in some exercise, and you'll just start. And that's what happened to me. Started with nutrition. Then I started to walk more, and then I worked on mindset, and it just started one thing at a time. And then all of a sudden, it just all started to come together.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it can feel overwhelming when you are debilitated, especially
Yeah.
to try to do all the things that you feel like you need to do. So kind of
Yeah.
layering it on, and
Yeah.
yeah, embracing simple things one at a time. What would you say are some of the maybe biggest misconceptions people have about chronic illnesses like MS or considered chronic? Yeah.
Well, it can be a very invisible disease. It's not always physically visible what the disability is. Um, and yeah, we have a huge campaign that talks about that regularly in Australia with MS Limited, talking about the aspects of the invisible disease and how to best support, ourselves and our loved ones who are experiencing multiple sclerosis. Um, so there's that. But I also think that, in all the research I've done, whilst there's absolutely, many stories of, progression and severe disability, there are also stories of hope where, people do recover. And my mission is just to inspire, or to share my story to inspire everybody to, of what I've learned, educating myself with what I've studied, but also on my personal journey of how to give ourselves the best environment to heal, but also to navigate those challenging times when we're not well and we're stuck there. And all parts of the journey are important.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. Yeah. What is a first step that somebody might take who has autoimmunity or another difficult or challenging condition?
The first step, you mean when they're newly diagnosed, right at the
Yeah,
start of their
yeah, or not,
journey?
maybe not even newly diagnosed,
Yeah,
but yeah, just to feel like they are doing something that they are taking a step forward.
I think realizing that what we believe about ourselves and what can be possible for us, no matter what part of the journey we're on, is what matters. And we can change our minds and reimagine that. And the best way of doing that is to feel, yeah, returning back to self. So you might just start meditating for 5 minutes every morning and night. Just do that for a week. And then in week two, throw in some journaling. Write down what your intention is every day. So for me, I'm a workaholic. I overachieve. So a really good intention for me is today. My intention is to be playful. Just to do things for the fun of it. And the healing can be in the opposite. So simply writing an intention in the morning in your journaling, and then at nighttime, just write 3 things that you're grateful for, can really start to shift your mindset and to bring you into that growth and repair pathway instead of survival and stress. And to surround yourself with hope and, positive people that see possibility and solutions instead of problems. Um, and just to love yourself through all aspects of the journey when you're newly diagnosed, when you're still very, very sick, or you start to recover. We've got different things to learn in the different chapters, and they're all important
Yeah, it's
and to
true.
be honored. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm still learning and
Yeah.
well into my healing journey, and yeah, it's never ending, and it's not linear, right? You face new challenges or have setbacks or whatever. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
anything else that you would add that I didn't ask about?
No, I think we've covered pretty much everything. And I just hope that, I can just be a story of hope that, healing can happen. And just how to support and love yourself throughout the whole journey is how you're going to learn all the lessons along the way, and to make it a little bit easier to go through, no matter what chapter you're facing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, you are a powerful example of what's possible, and I really appreciate you sharing your story. Would
Oh,
you
my
let folks
pleasure.
know where they can find and follow you?
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me, Casey. My website is bendlikebamboo.com. And I can share with you a special, if you like, for everyone to experience foundations, just to get them started with some recipes and journaling and meditation. So I'll organize a coupon code for you so that your listeners can enjoy that program.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
pleasure.
sounds really cool.
Yeah. Oh, and also, yeah, the book. I wrote this 2 years ago.
Oh, let's
I don't
see.
know if you can see that. I have to
A
go
little bit of
closer.
a
Bend.
reflection on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
It's
Bend
a
like bamboo.
been
I wrote
like
a book.
bamboo. Oh, I love it. And it's a beautiful cover.
Thank you. Yeah, this beautiful artist did it. Yeah, it's just all about my story and all about the science behind everything we're talking about and all the juicy lessons I've learned along the way. That's also on the website.
Fantastic. Yes, I will be sure to put the link to the book and your site in
Lovely.
the show notes, and also yeah, for the written story as well. So Amanda, thank you
Beautiful.
so much for the conversation. I learned something in our short conversation here that I will
You.
take with me for the rest of the day and going forward. So I appreciate
Oh, beautiful. No, thanks, Casey. And I can't wait to host you on my podcast too and
it.
to learn more about your wonderful story as well.
So thank you.